Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the first edition of KlimaHistory. Today we're going to talk about the reasons for exploration. So grab some popcorn, kick back, and get ready for a fun-filled adventure of history with Klima. Well, let's talk about Europe for a second. Europe it was kind of at a weird place. They had just got out of medieval times, and they were very eager to go out and start exploring, particularly in Asia, where they had all of these different things, including silks and spices. Now, they didn't have refrigeration back then, so a lot of times your meat and such you had to salt and preserve. Well, they didn't have a lot of this stuff over in Europe. They also didn't have the spices that you would think of that we have all over the world today, like pepper, for example. And so they're very eager to get a hold of this. So why did Europeans want to come to China and India? Well, like I said, silks and spices, that was the place to get it. Also to spread Christianity. If you ever heard of the Crusades back in medieval times in the 1100s and 1200s, there was this fight in Jerusalem over what was the right religion, Christianity or Islam. Well, after that, the kind of Europeans went back home, but they still were eager to spread that to the rest of the world, to expand their empire. The more land you have, the more money you're going to make. And also to get riches, gold and silver and such. So they had a lot of motivation to go there. But problem was that they had to go there by land. Well, if you know anything about the land, it's pretty rough, especially in this area right here in the Middle East. There's a lot of desert there. And plus all of these other countries here were not fond of Europeans kind of just trekking through their territory. So that was a problem. Another way to get to India and China was around Africa. Well, that's tough as well. What do you have to rely on back then to get you there? Well, the trade winds. So a lot of times it was extremely dangerous to get there, and you would land in some place that you wouldn't even want to be. So I think that was one of the problems with Europe at this time, that they didn't have a viable way to get to India and China for the resources that they wanted and for the goals that they were trying to obtain. Well, there was this Italian guy, you probably heard of him, named Christopher Columbus, and he's from the area, the northwestern part of Italy, and what is known as Genoa. And Columbus had this idea. He was thinking, I know that's kind of weird, but he was thinking, what if we went west to get to China and India? And a lot of people just didn't really buy it, even though there was research and books to show that there was actually a land to the west of Europe. So he goes to Portugal. Portugal is this big powerhouse at this time, and they already have all the trade routes kind of set up. And Columbus says, hey, I can find a faster way if I go west. Will you lend me some money? Well, Portugal says, nah, we're not interested. They already had some solid trade routes to Asia, going around Africa, which was still extremely dangerous. But anyways, Portugal said, nah, we're not interested. So he goes to their neighbor, Spain. Columbus knew that Spain would kind of hear him because they were rivals with Portugal as far as trade and such. The Queen and King of Spain at the time, Ferdinand and Isabella, said, sure, on one condition: any land that you obtain, you need to basically claim it as Spanish property, as Spanish territory. Columbus said, sure, I'll do that. So they gave him the money, and he took off in 1492. You know the whole story. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And he was on the Santa Maria, the Nina, the Pinta. He lands in what is today Cuba. And we call it the Caribbean today, the Caribbean. But when Columbus landed, he was unsure that he was actually in the right place. He thought he was in India, so he called the area the West Indies because he was going west and he thought he was India. He called the people there Indians. Well, after a while, he figured out that, hey, this is not really India where I'm supposed to be. This is a new area. He claimed the area as his own, Hispaniola, if you see in this picture here. And he goes back to Europe and starts telling everybody about his journey there. So Columbus didn't really discover anything. What Columbus did was basically gossip. He told everyone he could about this new world that was out there. And Europeans started hearing this and really kind of took on this idea and kind of developed different reasonings for going, but most importantly, these 6 reasons: gold, God, glory. You've heard of that. The 3 G's, the Spanish were really big into this. But what I mean is wealth, religion, and fame. Wealth is not just gold and silver, but also stuff you can accumulate and actually sell, like silks, spices, precious metals, like silver. Curiosity was big too. When people heard this, they're like, hey, let's go check this out. We might find something there. National pride. I really think of soccer in the sense that in soccer, there's so many countries that compete because they have a lot of pride in their country. They want to be number one. Well, back then, countries wanted to be number one as well. And also faster, cheaper trade routes. This holds true for anything in the economy. The faster you get there, the faster you ship an item, the more money you're going to make. So Columbus changed the world in a sense. He goes back to Europe, tells everyone about it. He tells Spain, especially. People started telling people in France, England, Sweden, even the Dutch. And they go around and they say, let's start exploring the new world. And so that's basically the reasons for exploration in a nutshell. So in class this week, we're going to talk about what countries actually explored, what was their motivation behind it, and what areas in the New World did they explore. I will see you next time for another edition of KlimaHistory.